I'd like to call to order the Parks, Rec, and Trails Commission meeting of March 26th. I have 6:03 p.m. Margarita, would you please do a roll call?
Yes. Commission Chair Marty Rosen.
Present.
Commission Vice Chair Bill Zimmerman.
He's not here yet.
Commissioner Tom Gidroyce.
Here.
Commissioner Ken Gaunt. Here. And Commissioner Richard Croy.
Here.
Okay. Flag salute. Ken, would you please lead us?
Yes, sir. Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Ken. There are no presentations, so that brings us to the minutes of March 12th.
Move for approval. Second.
Okay, we have Rick made the motion and Ken seconded it. Are there any further discussions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved unanimously. Okay. Item number 6. Margarita, are there any modifications to our agenda?
There are none.
Then we will accept the agenda as is. Has anybody from this vast amount of people want to speak?
There are no public comments.
Okay. All right. So that brings us to discussion items. Item 8.1, and I'm going to turn this over to Robert.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner. This item is for the consideration of a minor change application that's been submitted relative to track number 32025. The reason why I'm bringing it to the attention of the Commission is for the consideration of landscaping and trail improvements for this particular track. You can tell from the attachments to the item, and while I'm talking about it, staff will go ahead and bring it up on the screen for you. This is a portion of the Audie Murphy Ranch development, and to give you some idea of where that is and where it falls within the track development. Margaret, if you can go to the third page of this. Perfect, yeah. So this, scroll down just a bit more. The road running through the middle of this this exhibit is Newport, where the hand is. And the track that we're really discussing is where it says PA4. It's a light brown one just directly underneath the hand. If you can go down to the right there. Perfect, yep. That is the location in question. And then to give you additional location, the completely lighted out area up to the right a bit, no, down a bit, there you go. That's the park right there. That's already built. That's Audie Murphy Ranch Sports Park. So we go back to slide 1. This is just a piece of that, and why I'm bringing it to the attention of the Commission is the minor change really is just, and I'll explain what was in the application. Originally it was approved for a Schedule A subdivision of 130 acres into 198 single-family residential lots, ranging in size from 55 to 6,500 square feet, and 7 lots for open space and or landscaping. So under the minor change, the subdivision would include 198 single-family residential lots ranging in the size that I mentioned, but exceeding that to over 10,000 square feet. The open space lots on the map 202, 205, and I did hand out hard copies that are a little bit bigger. Hopefully it can help. Are proposed for passive park, and I should highlight that those are to be HOA maintained. So again, when you're looking at these exhibits, know that for the park space, these are not intended to be city maintained, HOA maintained. Again, when a plan is submitted for the landscape improvements for HOA parks, we do take a look at them, but they do not. All we look for is that they abide by our approved landscape standards, not necessarily looking for practical uses for public access. So along those lines, though, there is a regional trail that runs through the property that would be city maintained as a public access. And to give you an idea where that is, on the right side of this slide, you'll see that road running from north to south. That's Lone Pine. Correct, right there. That's Lone Pine. If you were to continue up, you would see that on the right-hand side, there's a small parking lot. That is the sports parks parking lot. So this street and the black line that runs along the left edge of this street is where the regional trail is designated. And so the minor change does include improvements to that. What we're still waiting for in this preliminary landscape plan is cross-sections of that trail improvement, which we'll be keeping a close eye on. The landscape standards that were approved by this body as well as Planning Commission and will be considered by the City Council on April 1st does include the typical trail cross-section improvement. And for this segment, it would be a curb-adjacent sidewalk, 4 feet of landscaping, and a 2-rail vinyl fence with about a 10-foot to 12-foot DG trail improvement on the other side of that, on the interior side of that. That is what a regional trail improvement, traditional or standard improvement will look like, and what we'll be looking for when we submit the plans. So that runs from the north to the south, and then there is a street crossing at the bottom edge at the knuckle right there that we will also be looking for them to submit when they get to that point. And then the regional trail, perfect, yeah, if you zoom in, that's perfect. The regional trail would continue east-west and connect with a 12-foot regional trail that essentially goes off of the map here. Now, you're probably wondering, how does this tie in to the larger plan? If you can go to the next map, Margarita, and zoom out a bit. This is the approved trail plan for Audie Murphy Ranch. And again, zoom into the middle there where the park is. Yep. And scroll down just a tad. That green is the segment in question. Alan, if you can do us a favor and go ahead and close the blinds out there. Thank you. The green is the segment in question. You can see the street crossing. And then scroll down just a tad more. The trail does go off beyond into the hills there. However, we understand there's a pending MOU or discussion with between Brookfield and the tribe about use of the appropriate uses of that land. So regardless, the developer is conditioned to ensure the trail improvement is done. Accessibility and negotiating on the types of uses in there is still a pending item. So with that,
It still hasn't been resolved.
as far as the city is concerned, that is true. It has not been resolved, but they are conditioned to do the improvement in the developed area
I
in
know, but
question.
they can't attach it to areas over and going into Lake Elsinore because they can't cut across tribal land.
To be
Okay.
to be determined between the developer and them. But a question tonight, though, is the review and approval by the commission of the applicant's proposal for preliminary landscape plan and trail improvement plan for this tract, also known as Canyon Cove. Keeping in mind, again, that most of the improvements are considered HOA, which would be the landscaped areas and those internal trails, and then the CFD maintained regional trail that I highlighted. I'd be happy to answer any questions on this. And we have one additional map to show you. If you want to go to the next slide, Margarita, and zoom all the way out. This is the full, whoops,
Not that far.
perfect, yeah. This is the full improvement plan for the entire Artie Murphy Ranch development. It is also in your hard copy, larger, that I printed, so you can see how this ties into everything else. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Sir Rick.
On the regional trail that, as you can see, maybe if you can go back to that previous slide with the black lines on it and zoom in a bit. Down where it's going to connect into that open space down there, that, am I correct? That part of it right there is not tribal lands, I think. It's
No, the initial.
It's the one east of it, correct?
Yeah, but this segment only goes so far, and so we can connect to something that essentially
Yeah,
goes to, another acre or two and then stops.
right.
So,
Yeah, that particular, where that's going to come out, it's going to be a major climb.
yes.
But a trail is a trail, and if you got a healthy hiking abilities or dirt biking or equestrian, that's good. I'm happy to see this. This is does provide connectivity, which is one of our major goals here, is to make sure our trails go somewhere. The trail, it is nice to see the regional trail going up Lone Pine, connecting to the sports park, which will get you into Salt Creek Trail. So we've got, it looks to me like we've got a nice piece of the puzzle here. With the, unfortunately, we don't know yet what's going to happen south of it. The thing that we looked at the Trails Committee was that particular piece of it is going to be a real linchpin in creating a connection so that you have a trail that you can get from down through Scott Road, go up Byers or something, and then get into Salt Creek to go somewhere else. I would stress that we really need to settle that or get something going with that as soon as we can, just because it provides the missing link. Once again, a missing link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to note, too, the regional trail moving north does connect to Salt Creek as you cross Newport. That is the big challenge, though, is crossing Newport.
Right.
But it does. The challenge still remains, though, beyond that and on the north of that, continuing up.
What is the street that crosses Newport that has the signal?
There's a couple of them. Derby, I believe, is one. Is one that crosses. Berea. Yeah.
The big question for me is, if I'm riding my horse and going up towards Salt Creek, the county is getting ready to do some improvements in Salt Creek in that specific area.
Yes.
Can we put it on a list somewhere to put in a horse light at the button?
Yeah, likely at Derby. Margarita, can you go to the prior slide? Or the next slide, rather? Sorry, I think that's the first one, yeah. So that street crossing, zoom into right above the drainage A.
Drainage A, right.
No, zoom in to about where H is. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at that street right there is
Right.
a signalized intersection, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
You're asking for an additional higher equestrian button.
Horse
right?
hide button. The original plan in the county was to go under Newport.
Yeah, I
It
believe
didn't happen. So we're beyond that. So whatever we can do to make it easier to
Okay,
push a button, so you don't have to dismount.
all right.
It will,
What's that? I'm not sure.
What's the question?
If there was going to be a firehouse near this intersection.
Oh,
I seem to remember something about a firehouse going to be built near that crossing. And you talk about horses and firehouses, it doesn't sound like a terrific combination. I was just
Sounds like
trying to
fun.
bring it back to mind if either of you had heard about it.
Right. No, I have not.
I know they were going to build a firehouse as part of the project. Does that ring a bell?
no,
I believe it's going to be off of Getz Road. It's going to replace the one in Quail Valley.
Okay, good.
Oh, I think it's on the westernmost.
Yeah, the very
Oh, that
western
track,
part
yeah.
of that property.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to ask, thank you.
Could you back out a little bit from this picture? Where else is there a traffic light?
There is one further down at Getz on the far left, and then there's one further to the right at Berea, as
At
Alan was
Berea,
mentioning.
okay.
Yeah.
I would request that they put upper signals at all three of the crossings.
Berea, the red,
Well, Berea is not built out yet, but I
Right,
mean, eventually
yeah.
it will be. But those are the only ways across, so we really need that button crossing.
no, and if you look on the legends for this particular map, it does have an equestrian crossing
Where?
at Drainage A.
Drainage A.
Right,
Now let's go to the others.
right. Well, I'll tell you why you won't need one there, because you won't ride a horse down Newport Road.
I won't, I don't know about you, but I've known you to do crazier things than that,
You
so,
have
you
to have a
know.
real fast horse. But I understand, I understand the
If
logic
you're on the
behind it.
opposite side and you wanted to cross over,
You wouldn't do it.
if we're assuming that at some point an agreement will be made with the tribe so that people could
Well, this is
go
here.
up and over the, into Lake Elsinore, then you will need that ability to cross over. And it's a lot easier to put it in now than it is to try to put it in after the fact. So would you please ask them to,
We'll add it to our plan and check comments.
Please.
Uh-huh.
we're only talking about, I don't think they're more than $100 or something apiece, but it would make a big difference. Okay. We need do we need a
Just a motion.
vote?
Yeah.
Or do we need an actual vote by by name, or do we just?
No, roll call's not required. Just,
No roll call, just a motion.
Correct.
Okay. Would somebody please move?
I'll make a motion to accept the minor change approved
Rick,
as discussed.
motion to approve. Ken, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it's approved unanimously. Okay. That brings us to discussion item 8.2. This is an update in ordinance based on a revision by the Planning Commission. So again, I'm going to transfer over to, I'm in good shape today.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
that's all right. It's Robert.
Robert.
Yes, this item is just as a courtesy to the commission, so you can see it one last time before council reviews it on April 1st. Changes that were made by the planning commission were very minor for the most part, just choices in words, some wordsmithing, clarification points, and nothing that substantially changed what you saw in philosophy or substance. And again, just bringing it to you for one last revision or one last look before council sees it next week.
Do we
Again,
want to approve it?
I'm
by
sorry.
motion?
Yeah, you would just approve any modifications.
Yeah,
Again, there's
right.
nothing substantial, no technical changes at all. In fact, the guidelines, both park and landscape guidelines, as well as the details, none of that has changed. It's only in the ordinance where they made word changes.
Okay. With that in mind, I would ask for a motion to approve the changes.
I make that motion.
Okay. So Tom, and second by Ken. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved unanimously. Okay, that brings us to item 8.3. And again, Robert, I'm going to ask you what the changes were to the park site.
Sure. The consideration for this item is essentially like the first, a minor change application to track number 31098. While I'm talking about it, if staff can bring up the same file, last slide, so you can get a closer image of it. You also have a larger handout, the single-page larger handout that I provided while we're reviewing this. Minor change proposes consolidate two separate park lots, 269 and 270, into one to create a 3.86 acre park. I'm sorry, for a total 3.68 acres. Let's see. I'm sorry, no, that was the prior. The new one would be 6.52 acres, which you'll see on your map in lot number E, letter E. But Margarita, can you pull up that on the overhead, please? The proposed park site does include a water quality basin, and while it's coming up, I can kind of explain what it was in the past. There we go. Can you zoom in to the park site, which is just to the left? There you go, perfect, all the way in there. Yes, perfect. So this was the park site. This is a revised park site. Along the southern edge of this site, where it says setback line TYP under the 1462, that whole section used to be lined with homes. And so the discussion with the applicant was essentially from staff, you can't have two sides, three sides of a public park lined with residential because it creates a health and safety issue, not only for the park patrons, but also for the residents who own the neighboring lots. They agreed. They made some other concessions further to the west in the development and made the traffic circulation work and removed, I believe it was 5 parcels total to accommodate our request. And so as a result, if you can center that and just zoom out once, that's good enough. Just center that now. What you'll see at the top end of this, pull it down a bit more, a little more. Perfect. What you'll see here, there is a grass-lined channel at the north end of this, and just directly adjacent to just below that is the flood control basin, and then right below that starts the park itself. Again, it's intended to be 6.52 acres total, but that does include the basin as well. Again, it's just for layout. They have not submitted yet on a park concept. When that is submitted, we'll bring it back to you. My apologies is somewhat out of order because the new standard requires anytime they submit a track map for review or a minor change, they would also be required to submit the park conceptual at the same time. But this was all put into the pipeline before we established those requirements, so you're getting to see this before the conceptual is actually available. So that really concludes my update on it. Highlights, again, they did accommodate staff's requests, and so now you have access to the site from two public streets. You still have the neighboring residents on the left side or the west side of the park, which is something we can still mitigate to a degree. We actually have a much worse situation over at Audie Murphy Ranch Sports Park, as well as at Lazy Creek Park, where we've got we've got residents neighboring on more than one side, and so we're just trying to minimize the impacts.
Rick?
I do have a question. So lots 145, 146, 147, those will remain?
Yes. The request was to eliminate those. Originally, we had asked that they add a street, basically where 145 is currently, going all the way to the east and line the basin with homes, with just a street in front of the homes. It would effectively probably shrink the park a bit, but it actually makes circulation a bigger problem, and it really reduced the park by too much, because you can't just do a one-way street, which was one of the ideas.
And the channel on the north side of the park there, that is
Pre-existing.
pre-existing, and is that like a blue line stream, or is it?
I don't know that, to be honest. I know that it can't be messed with because it is a county flood control.
Is
Yeah.
it part of line A, or? do we know?
No, I'm sure the outlet does go into it, but it's not part of Line A.
Okay. Yeah, my concern would be just the fact that I think you are on the right track. If you have those 6 homes backing right up to the park, how are you going to make a baseball diamond? If you get a good hitter from that bottom corner there in that baseball diamond, you get a guy that knows how to hit, you're going to be replacing some windows.
That is true, and so we take that in consideration when the conceptual comes in, because it may change the use of the park. We may just do a multi-purpose field for football, soccer play instead of baseball or softball.
Yeah. I just, I have trouble knowing that when it's all said and done, you're going to get 6 people complaining that there's a lot of noise. And
All the more reason why we now want them to submit a conceptual along with
right.
this.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anything further? In that case, I would ask for a motion to approve the change, the reconfiguration.
I'll make that motion.
And any second?
No, second.
Okay. Ken seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved unanimously. But we all know we're going to have problems. Okay, that brings us to item 9. And again, back to Robert.
Sure. The Parks, Trails, Open Space, and Recreation Master Plan, as you know, and those of you that attended, I think everybody did attend these stakeholder interviews, which were very successful, and we got some good information out of them. They'll be included into the consultant's analysis, and they're going to be continuing with a workshop on Monday. That's March 30th, Monday at 6 p.m. over at the Case Sinicero Center. We're anticipating anywhere from 50 to 70 people, which would be great. It's the first of 3. So if you're not busy, feel free to come by. There'll be free refreshments there and plenty of information. It is an interactive workshop. So it's not a session for the consultant to simply say, this is what we're doing. It is a call and response. And the consultant will break everyone into small groups and come up with findings and incorporate those into the study. The second workshop, as you may recall, is on April 20th at 6 p.m. It's also on Monday, and it will be held at the Wheatfield Menifee Gym. And that one is tailored mostly towards sports user groups to talk about facilities and needs. And then the final one will be on May 11th, I believe it is, a Monday at 6 p.m., and that one will be held at the Sun City Civic Association. So we will obviously remind everybody and have flyers available for those as well. But they're moving on fast and furious. The call survey, the phone call surveys, will be starting hopefully middle of next week, where they will essentially sample and get 300 phone calls out to residents with a list of 40 questions to go over for those who are patient enough to go through the process. And the findings of that get incorporated as well. So
We're going to find out how many of the people actually are willing to answer all those questions?
yeah, the 300 count would only count completed surveys. So if they don't get completed one, they call someone new.
So do we have 50 to 75 RSVPs per?
We don't. We have about 20, but if you multiply that by spouses, kids, whatever, and we also know many people don't like to RSVP. They just show up.
I know, trust me, I know.
We've had a number of sports user groups say, we'll be there, and we ask, how many of you? And, yeah. So that's my report on that.
And that's March
30th.
30th.
30th,
Yeah. This Monday coming up.
Monday.
6 p.m. Case in the Saros.
For 9.2, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Alan to give you an update on the capital improvement program.
9.2, the park diff and the trails diff are the same as last month. For the capital projects tracking report, we completed project number 15, CAL FIRE Urban and Community Forestry Grant. It was part of our Spring Trees event last Saturday, where we planted 128 trees at 2 park locations, 35 trees at ELP Peterson, and 93 trees at Lau Marsh Park. And we had over 80 volunteers to help and plant the trees for us.
I want to see your blisters.
Oh, I was wearing gloves.
Good idea.
Yeah. And then we have 2 upcoming projects. The Case Sinacero Senior Center interior project. It's in plan check right now for interior improvements for the ADA compliance, for the restroom, and for the upgrades for the multi-purpose room. And we have we just completed the bid process for the Senior Center exterior improvements, and it will go to council for approval next week.
On that particular project, the time wasn't on our side to have it included in your agenda for tonight, because we didn't have the bid findings until after we published this. So the only thing I would note, you've seen the scope of tasks or scope of work for that project. The only thing I would note is that the exterior improvements does exceed the CDBG $278,000 for it. There is an additional, maybe staff can help me on the amount. There's an additional amount that will be charged to the park diff, in order to complete the full improvements on the exterior. Margarita, do you want to confirm that number?
Yeah, it was about 31,000.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead, Alan.
Do we have to approve that?
No, you don't. I mean, council will approve it. Again, if we had the luxury of time, we certainly would bring that to you.
That is it.
All right, so that brings us to 9.3, and I go back to Robert.
Sure, there's no notable changes in the parks in progress. The only thing that's different is what you've seen tonight in both items. I can tell you just anecdotally, we've had a couple of meetings so far with Fleming Ranch folks, which is the big property. If you head north on the freeway on the right-hand side south of the RV center, and the initial meetings were very good. They are interested in submitting a specific plan. You saw in the prior update it incorporated multiple parks, and they are willing to change that to try and consolidate into larger park. They do want to maintain, though, a single facility park for senior use. It wouldn't be exclusively seniors, but they want to make sure the improvements are geared towards seniors and that it is adjacent to the senior community that they want to build. But the other parks, between the basin and I think it was 3 other parks they had planned, they are willing to consolidate those into one. So we are
What
going...
number are we talking about? Do you remember?
What number of which? I'm sorry.
Acreage.
All in all, I think it was 28 acres for everything in there.
They want to pull something out.
Not out, they want to just separate the senior portion,
Well, that's
and then the
fine.
balance would be the single park, yes. So in all, they would be comfortable with just 2 parks, so. And so we said, okay, well, submit revised conceptual for the site, and then we can talk again, and they are willing to do that.
Yes, Rick.
How many, is there an idea of how many residential units are going in there, or it's just?
Yeah, there's 2 different numbers. One is for regular single-family residents, and I believe that was somewhere around 1,500. And then the other was for the senior occupied, detached, and that was, I believe, 500 or so. I don't know, remember the numbers right off the top of my head, but
Be about a 3-to-1 ratio senior.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And the senior community that they had proposed was actually set back further from the freeway, whereas the others were a little closer. Adjacent to the freeway, though, was still going to be a commercial retail zone, so there's a buffer before you get to residential.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to 9.4, events and activities.
I will turn that over to Alan to give you the latest and greatest.
This weekend, we're having our annual Springfest event at La Ladera Park from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We will be completing the last portion of the CAL FIRE grant, where we'll be giving away 300 tree saplings, pine trees, 3 different varieties, and we'll be doing a small education portion of it, explaining how to plant a tree as part of the craft. And we'll be having, it'll be $3 wristband for kids to get in, unlimited jumpers. We'll have the Youth Advisory Committee will be doing face painting next to the city booth. And we'll have food vendors, craft vendors, and 2 Easter bunnies, and bring your own camera for that.
And how many people are you expecting?
Usually we get 1,000 to 2,000 kids, and then plus their parents. Yeah.
At La
At
Ladera Park?
La Ladera Park, yes.
How big is La Ladera Park? I'm trying to decide if you have enough physical space for these people.
Well, in prior years, they've made it. Luckily, what they do is they sort of funnel throughout the day. They're not all there
Oh,
at
and
one
don't
time.
stay there. Okay.
Yeah, but we hear the concern, and I saw last year that it might help the residents that are right next to the park to have some alleviation of the parking challenges. So we have asked Brookfield to lend us use of the adjacent vacant lot for overflow parking, and they said yes, and they even scraped an area for it. So we're just trying to make it a little bit easier for the public. It does raise a question, though, about what we do in the future, because once the Brookfield AMR project is all done and built out, where do people park for these events? And the only real answer to that is just directly behind La Ladera is a planned school. And so with a school would be a parking lot. We would have to come up to some joint agreement with the school district to have use of the lot.
La Ladera Park is
That would
8
work
acres.
if you're doing it on the weekend. If you're doing it during the week,
They're
forget it.
yeah, they're always during the weekend. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any further questions? All right, let's go to item 10. Commissioner reports on activities.
None here.
We named a park,
Really? What'd you name it?
Spirit.
Spirit. How nice.
Spirit Park.
We took the idea that you've got the Audie Murphy spirit as a patriot, and the idea that you have the Pachangas who have their spiritual relationship to the land they own, and got a double entendre out of it.
Well, it sounds very nice. Anything else? All right.
Well-
That brings us to future agenda requests. we need to put in place in some kind of a public fashion an equestrian trail. We need to advertise it. People need to know it exists, and we have to put signs up, because more and more people are yelling at me about the fact that they don't exist and they can't find them. And of course, they do exist, but yes, they can't find them because we don't have any signs telling anybody where they are. So can we put down somewhere a program of some kind where we start labeling, putting signs up? Please, Robert.
Yeah, this is part of our ongoing effort to inventory what we have. This is not just the parks, it's the trails too. The question came up last week from the consultant. When he saw the map that was part of the general plan and the Trails Committee report, he noted that some of this is just proposed and some of it exists, and it's hard to tell the difference from the two on paper.
Correct.
We concurred. The solution to this, though, is while the master planning is going on, and between now and beginning of next fiscal, the inventory of existing trails can be incorporated into a brochure of sorts, a trails map that isn't a map that you download from the general plan, but is a map you can pick up here or at any of the centers in
And
case you
most-
want to do
most
a
people,
walk.
I mean, most cities have that.
Correct.
You can go in and pick up a brochure of some kind.
Right, and so this is a project that's on our horizon.
Okay.
That's great. There, I mean, for instance, Trailhead Drive, that trail is now done, in effect, from Aldergate all the way through to Salt Creek. That's great. That's a completed trail. Scratch that one.
Yeah.
And as we move along, as time goes by, Garbani is a regional trail which will be completed someday. Unfortunately, it's 2 blocks and stop, and 2 blocks and stop. But the consultant, when we were talking, he did make that comment. He says, "This is great, but they're all proposed." Okay.
Yes, we do need the developers to put them in.
Yes.
Any other requests?
No.
All right, I have one more. I'm going to ask staff to look at that retention basin. The 40 acres, although I'm told it might not be 40 acres, it might be 35.68, but whatever it is, if staff would please look at that catch basin in the unincorporated properties east of Heritage High School, and give us an idea of, in your opinion, how does it look? Is it something that we could use easily? Is it going to cost a fortune to make it usable? I don't know, but can we have staff take a look at it?
Sure, with a consensus of the committee, we can agendize that. That's not a problem, and provide the
Oh,
facts.
yeah, I need a second for that.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay, please. Because if we're going to go ahead with anything, I would rather know now that it's impractical, rather than wait till later. Okay? So please look at it. I know that Tom is going to walk it during the weekend, but from a really practical point of view, what could you do with it if you had it? Okay, is there anything else? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
We are adjourned. What is it? 6:47?